morning, members. That's gone 10:30. Welcome to the first meeting of Policy and Resources Committee of 2018. Wish you all a happy new year. We have a relatively light agenda of business this morning, but given we have a meeting of full council this afternoon, I intend that we make brisk progress through this. I'll also remind you that the meeting is being recorded and will subsequently be made available for public listening. Rona, can you provide the Sederunt and any apologies, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillors Charteris, Fairbairn and Maitland, and as we start the meeting, Councillors Carruthers and McGregor are not present.
Okay, thank you, Rona. Item 2, declarations of interest. Any member wish to make a declaration of interest? Oh, very good. In that case, we move swiftly to item 3, minute of the meeting of 16th November 2017. This is for noting. Are we content to note? Thank you. Moving on then to item 4, the Local Government Finance Settlement 2018-19, report by Head of Finance and Procurement. The Scottish Government announced details of the Local Government Finance Settlement for 2018-19 on 14th of December 2017 and provided details of the provisional funding allocations for each council. These details are not final, and therefore changes of any significance will be communicated to members at the earliest opportunity. The report sets out the major factors of the draft settlement for members, and I would summarise the overall picture as somewhat better than we had feared, but challenging nonetheless. The key features are set out from paragraph 3.3 and include a reduction of 2.1%, equating to 5.97 million in our revenue settlement, the flexibility to raise council tax by up to 3%, the funding of the additional cost of the teachers' pay offer for 2017-18, and an additional 2.167 million of social care funding, which is essentially reallocated from the NHS funding settlement. In relation to capital funding, the resources to be allocated to the council in respect of the expansion of early years and childcare provision are yet to be determined, but elsewhere our share of capital funding is reduced by 1.877 million, which will create further pressure on the council's capital investment plans. As further clarity emerges on further potential reductions and ring-fencing, members will be advised of this too prior to budget setting. Gillian Ross is here to speak to and indeed answer any questions arising from the report. Gillian, is there anything specific you would wish to add at this point?
No, I think you've covered everything.
In that case, I will open this to members. Councillor Nicholl.
Thank you, Chair. There's one or two things in this that I don't particularly like, and I suspect there's a lot of people in this room don't like them. First thing I'm going to mention is in 3.2 are in draft form, and any changes to funding allocation to Dumfries and Galloway will not be confirmed until after the Council's budget is agreed in February. Surely that's the wrong way around. Surely we should be looking at the thing after we know exactly what we're getting, once the Scottish Government have set their budget. That's the first point. The second point I would like to bring up is in 3.11. It should be noted that although the settlement has been announced as sanction-free, any council not prepared to work in partnership with the Scottish Government to deliver the shared priorities set out in the settlement offer will receive a revised, less favourable funding package. The extent of financial penalty that may be applied as a result has not been indicated. Now that, to me, is one stage short of Kim Jong-un or whatever his name is in North Korea. That is verging on blackmail, and I always thought that blackmail was illegal. Could somebody give me any comment on that?
Your party does have a curious fascination with North Korea in this chamber, Councillor Nicholl. I'll bring in Lorna with regard to the timing of the council's budget setting, and I think the leader may wish to address the issue about the overall settlement.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of the date of full council, that was set on the basis of what had been long history, but in recent history we have had either a second meeting or a later meeting because of a lack of clarity or lack of finalisation of budgets at a national level. I'm currently consulting with group leaders and members to confirm a later date that will satisfy members and allow them to have full information before setting the council's budget from Scottish Parliament's decisions.
I think you will understand we're keen that members have the fullest of information. We recognise that this will include some challenging decisions, I'll bring the leader in first, and then if you wish to come back, Councillor Nicholl.
Right, thanks very much, Chair. I think on that particular point, past experience shows that a lot can happen at stage 3 of a budget bill, and it would be prudent, I believe, for us to make our decisions after we know what's happened. So I think we're in agreement on that point. I want to make another point really about this paper. It seems to assume that there will be a 3% increase in council tax. That is a decision for the council to make, and I think we need to make it clear that that decision is not taken in considering this paper. We have not actually taken any decision to increase council tax by 3% or any more or less than that. So it's just to say that really that the funding gap is actually 2.044 higher than is shown in the table. With regard to the letter from the Cabinet Secretary, I agree it's Hobson's choice, because we're being invited to write to say we don't agree with our settlement, but we know if we do that we'll get a worse settlement. So my proposal, and it's in line with what has happened in the past, is that I write to the Cabinet Secretary to say we haven't really got much choice other than to accept this, because we know that we're going to get something worse if we don't, but to flag up the issues of concern that we have, which include the fact that, we were told it's flat cash. It's not flat cash. It has, there is also the health and social care settlement has been transferred from the NHS budget to our budget, which is a further pressure on us. The fact also, I think that we are the lowest council tax area in mainland Scotland, and successive councils have taken decisions to keep council tax down here because we're a low wage economy. But because of that, we are continually penalised. We're getting less, and we would have some. I can't find the figure, and I think it's several million more if we were actually at the average rate of council tax. I can't remember the exact figure. So we have a problem relating to that, and the fact that the floor acts against us, that we are actually being penalised through the main floor calculation. So I think, and if there's other points that members would like me to include in any letter to the Cabinet Secretary, please let me know. But I think it's important that we make those arguments on behalf of the Council. Doesn't mean to say that anybody's going to pay a lot of attention to them, but we have done so in the past, and I think we still have to make those arguments.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Nicholl, you wish to come back?
Yeah, I was going to flag up the low council tax, which the Leader has just talked about, and 3% of 1,000 is a lot less than 3% of 2,000, if just for simplicity. We've not made an agreement. It's up to the council to set the council tax, not the Scottish Government. Any increases will be set by us, not by them. So I'm in total agreement with that. And could I maybe suggest that the administration, if they want to speak to us, we could maybe find some common ground?
Yeah, on that issue, I was also going to propose that once I have drafted the letter, that I share it not only with my colleagues in the partnership, but with other council leaders as well, because it will be a letter on behalf of Dumfries and Galloway Council, not on behalf of the administration of the council.
Councillor Nicholl, if that's satisfactory.
That would be fine. I just hope that you make it in the strongest possible terms, because this is not good. This is a wrong attitude. It's a wrong approach to talking to people. To put a statement like that in this thing about if you don't take it, you'll get a worse one. That's not a good position to work with.
Okay, Councillor Thompson.
My point's already been made. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Brodie.
Yeah, following on from what the Leader said, that obviously in 3.4 it mentions how we've been affected by the cash settlement. It says in the top of page 10 that the figure we got is 3.8 million lower than the mid-range scenario. So I think we are being penalised for being a low council tax authority, and it's unfair to the people of Dumfries and Galloway because, as the Leader said, we are a low wage economy. The problem is that we haven't really been able to, until last year our council tax was frozen for about 8 or 9 years, and I think the decision about 11 years ago to reduce the council tax to to make it the lowest in Scotland. It was a bad mistake, and we're still being penalised for it. So I think that, yeah, I urge the administration, as he said, to pursue this so that future settlements can really address the problem that we have in Dumfries and Galloway. And also perhaps Councillor McGregor wrote to Derek Mackay, and she got an assurance that this was a sanction-free budget. But then it says in the report that if we don't agree to do what the Scottish Office says, then there'll be a reduced financial settlement. So that doesn't really square. So maybe, Chairman, you could comment on that, because how can it be sanction-free and we'll be penalised if we don't do as we're told?
I can't pretend to know the Cabinet Secretary's mind on these matters. I think I would gently suggest to Councillor Brodie that the £3.8 million below the mid-range estimate reflects the fact that the savings requirement that we are likely to find is £3.8 million less than we had anticipated. However, his other points are duly noted. Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks very much, Chair, for letting me in. Can I just ask the Leader, when she writes the letter on behalf of the Council to the Finance Minister, for him to raise with other ministers the potential to align the NHS and the IGB budget setting dates with the local authority, because that would make things a hell of a lot easier, I would suggest, for everyone, because we're being expected to work together, but we're then expected to form set budgets at different times. And I think it would be really helpful if we could marry all three together and align them.
Leader?
I think that's a very good point, actually, and it would be well worth making it, yeah.
Okay, is there any other member? In that case, we shall turn to the recommendations. We are being asked to note 1 through 4. Are we content to do that? And I believe that we have an additional recommendation 5, that the Leader writes to the Cabinet Secretary for Finance and Constitution. I think the wording perhaps I could have some assistance with.
I'll undertake to consult with leaders of other groups before it goes up.
That will be, Chair,
Councillor Nicholl,
through you, will that be before that you send the letter or after?
No, it'll be before I send the letter. That, of course, does have to be with the Cabinet Secretary by the 26th of January, so there is some urgency about it too.
Okay, members, are we content? Thank you. Moving on then to item 5, Gartshore Park, Kirkcudbright, proposed community asset transfer, report by Director of Communities. The report presents members with the proposed community asset transfer of an area of land within Gartshore Park, Kirkcudbright, to Kirkcudbright Skate Park Group, with the aim of establishing a community skate park. The proposals as presented have received the support of the Kirkcudbright Common Good Subcommittee. Ingrid Gemmell is here to answer any questions members may have on the report. And I will open this up to members. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you very much, Chair. This application, I think, is an excellent example of community empowerment. The idea originated with school children at Kirkcudbright Primary School, and it grew from there. There is widespread community support for this application and for the skate park, and during the whole process there's been no objections. In fact, it's been nothing but support. The police have been consulted, and they think it will be an excellent resource for the community, and they've got no concerns about it whatsoever. I would also like to point out to the committee that all ward councillors, including myself, Councillor Gilroy and Councillor Maitland, are supportive of this application. It will be an excellent asset for Kirkcudbright, and the benefits are there to be seen in the business case, benefiting local people, young and old. If old people want to get their skateboards out, it'll be a tremendous resource for them, and for visitors alike to the town. So I hope that my fellow councillors on the committee will support this application for an asset transfer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Campbell. Any other member? Councillor Nicholl.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. No problem. I mean, with the principle of this at all. I would just draw your attention to 3.6, which states that for a period of 25 years, subject to a review of the project after 5 years of operation. That I've no difficulty with that. I would like to see that, but I would like to see that every 5 years, because if in year 6 it drops off and it's not being used, it's a long time until such times as the lease is up. So that could sit derelict for 18, 19 years. Now, I'm hoping it wouldn't, but I just wondered if that could be changed to a review of the project every 5 years of operation, as opposed to after 5 years.
Ingrid, if you can assist on that.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Members at the Kirkcudbright Common Good Subcommittee, that was a condition that they placed on that, but if members were minded to put every 5 year and into that, then that would be absolutely fine, I would suggest.
Thank you for that, Leader.
3.7 does refer to a clause about should the project fail, what would happen with the trees, but I just wondered if any other consideration had been made regarding if the point that I suppose that Councillor Nicholl makes, if the project fails after 5 years, well, what then happens?
Thanks again, Chair. Generally speaking, there is a request that a contingency plan is put in place for the project should the project cease to be a positive community resource at any point in time, I think is what members were alluding to at Kirkcudbright Common Good Subcommittee. So it would be, even if that first initial 5 years and it looked like that was no longer going to be a positive community resource, then it would be the case that they would be looking at that contingency to put the land back to its original state.
Okay, Councillor Campbell, you wanted to come back?
Yes, I see no difficulty with having an ongoing 5-yearly review. I'm confident that the skate park will continue throughout the 25 years to be made good use of and supported by the community, but I have no difficulty with extending it to every 5 years.
Thank you for that. Councillor Thompson?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, it's just a wee query. I mean, I think the project exemplifies, if you like, what a good community asset transfer should look like. It's just around the notion of common good. So at 3.7, it talks about the land reverting to the common good. Now, as far as I can tell from the lease, it will never stop being common good. It's just that there'll be a lease for use in it. So it remains common good at all time because it's not being disposed of. It's just been a lease agreed. So can we be clear what that means? Because it's still going to be part of the common good parcel of assets, if you like, that the council oversees. It's just that there'll be a lease in it. So any notional income, although it might be £1 or whatever, would effectively be put into the common good fund.
Rona, I think that might be a question for you.
Yeah. I think I'll need to come back to Councillor Thompson on that just by looking at the detail. It is a long lease, which would sometimes be treated as taken out of common good, but I think as long as we can make sure that we are actually keeping it in the common good in this case, but just given a lease, then I'll come back to you on that.
Okay, Councillor Ferguson?
It's actually the same thing. It's probably a question for Rona, Chair. Is that at 3.7 again, the Community Council have a view, obviously, but it's the Common Good Fund that own the land. So why are we putting a condition in there that the council are doing what the Community Council said they're saying would accept? We should be doing that ourselves. It's a moot point. But it should be the council, it's whoever's signing over the lease to them, and the council are the holders of the common good. Am I right? Yeah, so it's having the reference to the community council kind of muddies the waters a wee bit there, just that we're absolutely clear. So the community council can't tell anybody what to do with the common good land. They can suggest, but that reads as though they're telling us that they're agreeing it as long as that clause is there. It's just a bit misleading.
Rona, for clarification?
Yeah, I think it's just the way it's written. You're absolutely right that in the new asset disposal procedures that we have, we always now make sure that the community councils are aware of when we're disposing of land and they're given an option to make a comment of that or suggest another use, etc., as we did in Canonby. So I think it's just the way it's worded.
Okay, any other member? Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, no, it's just put in mind something relating to a previous lease that we'd done, and I think it was normally we would expect there to be a nominal value attached to any lease. Effectively, does there not have to be a consideration, whether it's £1 or otherwise, to actually say, yes, this is a lease? So here it doesn't actually say it's for £1 or anything. It does outline the sort of maintenance cost incurred by the council, but should we not effectively be agreeing that we do agree to a lease? Should we agree it for 25 years for £1 or whatever the price may be? Because effectively there's no consideration here as far as I can see.
Okay. Ingrid, are you able to comment on that at all?
Members are minded to put a nominal fee on that.
Sorry, Chair, I think my question is more, isn't that the way we ought to do it? And if it's not, then please correct me and shoot me down. But it's more just, I kind of thought you're meant to kind of go, there's £1, there's a 25-year lease, and that's the way there's a consideration for it.
I'd always tread very carefully around correcting you, Councillor Thompson. Rona, would you like to clarify?
No, Councillor Thompson is correct. There should be a consideration. I was just keen to find out from the area, the ward manager, if there'd actually been one discussed. If there's not been one discussed, then it would normally be £1.
Okay, any other members? Sorry, Ingrid, did you wish to make a comment?
Can I just add that as part of the business plan, the expectation from the group themselves was that they would pay £1 nominal fee.
That clarifies that then. Councillor Nicholl.
Yeah, is it £1 per year or £1 for 25 years? And the other point I would like to ask, this is for Rona as well, there's no legal problem with putting in every 5 years as opposed to after 5 years, I presume?
I presume it would be £1 per annum, but we'll just get that clarified, Rona.
Yeah, it's £1 per annum. The 5-year project review wouldn't actually be in the lease. That would be in a separate agreement with the organisation. They would get the lease, but obviously we would write in there'd be an option to get out of the lease at intervals if the project failed, etc. But the reviews will not be written into the lease itself, into the property lease. That would need to be a separate document or arrangement with the organisation.
Councillor Nicholl.
Chair, surely there would be a clause in the lease which said there was a break in the lease every 5 years.
Exactly, there'll be a break in the lease every 5 years, but it won't refer to the fact that it's about a satisfactory project review. That will be in the separate document.
Okay, Councillor McClelland.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just looking for a bit of clarity on page 43 with respect to the service level agreement. No, my card stuff there. Yeah, with respect to the service level agreement in relation to the general maintenance, and although this would form part of the lease agreement, can we take from that there will be no general maintenance costs put back to the council during the 25-year lease, and the maintenance will be undertaken by the skate park group?
Ingrid?
Within the applications that the group have put together, they have approximately 10% of the overall cost of the project will be made payable to the council for any ongoing maintenance costs for the period of the lease, which is approximately £10,000.
Okay, any other member? In case we'll turn to the recommendations. So at 2.1, we've been asked to consider the business plan and proposal, which I feel we have done. We've been asked to note and consider recommendations of the Common Good Fund Subcommittee. And at 2.3, we're asked to agree the lease for a period of 25 years. I think for the sake of clarification, it's at a rate of £1 per annum, and with the additional agreement, which is separate to the lease, of the rolling 5-year review. Are members content that covers everything? Councillor Thompson, yes?
Just on the back of Councillor McClellan's point about the maintenance arrangements, I take it that's not necessarily that we agree this, but that's embedded in the lease arrangements that are within the business plan. It's mentioned on page 58, but that 10% sort of valuation in terms of the maintenance cost, that they would pay the council to maintain it. Yeah.
Just for the record, we're
Sorry,
content
yes,
about that?
that's correct.
Okay, technically slightly late, but I'll take that we have agreed. We are agreed, thank you. Okay, item 6 is Electoral Reform in Scotland Public Consultation, report by Head of Legal and Democratic Services. This paper is regarding the recent launch by the Scottish Government of a consultation on proposals for electoral reform for Scottish elections, including elections to the Scottish Parliament, as well as elections for local authorities in Scotland. Consultation period ends before we meet again as a committee. So the proposal and recommendations is for the Democratic Services Manager and the Elections Coordinator to speak to groups and those members not in groups to ascertain their views with a view to a response being made on behalf of the Council by the closing date. Nick Evans is here to answer any questions on the report. Nick, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, in that case, we'll go straight to members' questions. Councillor Dryber.
Chair, I wonder if there is an opportunity here. Obviously, Nick has given the option to go around all the groups and discuss and get some feedback, but there's obviously the individual feedback as well to the consultation, and I'm wondering if there is a potential to bring back some of the information to the possible future full council if we don't get the information from Scottish Government on the budget.
Okay, note the suggestion. Any comment on whether that would be feasible?
I think it's a matter for members. I think in terms of the date for response, that would fall within that. It would give time for the consultation around the groups to gather in that information if members were so minded.
Okay, that sounds to me like that would be viable. Councillor Driver, you'd have that proposal?
If that was the case here, and we do have an arranged full council for the budget other than the 8th, then I think that should happen, and then we can have the full agreement of the council as to what our response would be, and that gives members another opportunity to say.
That strikes me as a sensible way forward. Councillor Ferguson.
Archie's just covered it, actually. I think it should be a full council decision, all members, not 21.
Okay, any other member? Excellent. In that case, we'll turn to the recommendations. We're asked to note at 1, agree at 2 to provide comments via Democratic Services Manager to enable a response to the consultation to be prepared and submitted. I'd suggest that the additional sentence there is to meet the full council before the deadline, before the Scottish Government deadline for the consultation. Would that cover everything? Okay. Okay, item 7, I have no urgent business. Therefore move to, thank you, Nick. Therefore move to item 8, the Local Government Scotland Act 1973. Members were asked to agree to adopt a resolution to exclude the public from the meeting in terms of section 50A brackets 4 of paragraph 2 of part 1, schedule 7A to the Local Government Scotland Act 1973. Are we agreed?